Hey you guys, so this is Alone Q&A session number 2. Here we go. We're on Reddit. Jazzy Coleman says, not really a question so much as a statement. I'm really looking forward to seeing how your eat all my food as I go approach works. We'll see how that goes, I guess. Obviously there's going to come a time where ideally I get more food than I can eat in one day, and when that happens, then I guess we'll play it by ear, but I have a solution to that. So good question, Jazzy Coleman. But for the most part, my eat everything as I go is, you see time and time and time again, everybody's food gets eaten by stuff. It's you just can't hide food. I mean, there's so much odor that comes from it all. And there's mink, marten, wolves, fox, wolverines. I mean, you name it. Everything wants your food. So by me putting it into my stomach as fast as possible, it seems like, at the time, it seems like a pretty rational thing to do. And we will see how that turns out. But there may or may not come a time where I have a lot more food and I have to come up with a way to store it and preserve it, which is obviously going to be really easy when the temperatures get cold, but hopefully that answers that. Restrains Jubilation on Reddit asks, hey Dub, we've now seen you and Sarah go into the water to retrieve an arrow. Did you ever consider attaching fishing line to an arrow so you wouldn't risk losing it in a water shot? So I feel like Carrie Lee did that. Was it season 8 or 9? Whichever one. But Carrie Lee, I thought, did that. And it seemed to work for her. I'm sure it was her. She was shooting at a muskrat. So yeah, it could be done. But for the ducks, I mean, you don't know the distance they're going to be at. And I knew going in, like, as soon as I picked my bow up, it's like, if I take this shot, I know it's going to suck to have to go get this animal. And I'm going to get it at all costs. Hooking line up to your arrow, how much is that going to affect the arrow flight? And I wasn't, at that point in time that you're looking at right now in the show, I was not interested in coming up with more ways to like concoct things, because if you know the distance that something is going to be when you're shooting at it, hooking a piece of paracord or one of the paracord fibers up to your arrow very conceivably could work quite well, but I didn't do that. Long distances, that's a very tricky proposition. Next question. I like this one. This is Percy Persimmon. My dad thought your back hair could have been a tramp stamp. If you had a lower back tattoo, what would it be and why? Well, it could be a tramp stamp. So what I'm going to do here is use my new digital enhancement photo technology and zoom in a little closer, and there it is. So your dad was not seeing things. Damn Good Marmalade says, did you establish a daily routine that you mostly kept to, or did you let each day unfold organically? Did I establish a daily routine that I mostly kept to? Yes, at a certain point, but where we're at in the series right now is I just finished my shelter, and I literally the day I think we're at episode 3, and I just finished my shelter enough to feel comfortable, and I just wanted my shelter knocked out and done. And after that, I am confident enough in my fishing that I was just gonna bite the bullet, get all that knocked out so I could feel sort of content about having a solid home to go to. And then it's time now to focus on food while continually working on my shelter a little bit here and there, now that the main portion of it's done, I can add on to it and build other things and keep pimping it out. But as far as daily routines go, those might start right about now, because I just wanted to have a good home that I could feel good about, and it would keep my brain from like going in a million different directions, which is how it sort of felt the first few days before I had a house. But now I'm on to food procurement, and each day did sort of, in a lot of ways, each day had sort of a little program that I would stick to based on what I needed to accomplish. But it gets to be, sure, you cut firewood, you try to get food each day, and you keep everything going just like that. And you get a routine, absolutely. Damn good marmalade. We're on to CDN Twitch from Reddit. I'm not sure if this was asked already, but what was the date? Approximate is fine that you guys were dropped off. Would be interested in knowing how much time they gave before fall hits. Well, Arctic, fall hits like freaking immediately at the end of the summer. I mean, you can tell by watching the teasers and the pre-show sort of intro that we hit winter, or some people hit winter, I guess. And yeah, it's fall. I mean, shoot, you can see on day 2 by the aerials that it's fall. Like the leaves are all changing. As soon as that cold weather goes, it goes, and it goes fast. But I can't just give exact dates out unless, I'll tell you, they've given out really, really good clues on the show by saying, during one of the first episodes, they said the sun sets at this time or something, and from that information you could pretty much backtrack. And I don't know if they said there was this much daylight or when the sun sets or whatever. Somewhere in there they said that information, and that should be enough for you to come up with that answer using a sunrise sunset calculator for the area. That's the best I can do. I cannot drop the exact day we were dropped off. I'm being cautious here. I don't want the History Channel to hate me. This is the first question from Forever Overthinking. Did you guys have to do a daily check-in, like just pressing a button so the crew knew you're alive? Now, this is not like new info. I've read it somewhere, so this info is definitely out there. But they do. There's a check we have to do, like each day. We push a button that says we're alive, and if we don't push that, then the helicopter comes, and they're cranky if you don't check in. So, but that's the only way they know we're safe and alive, because a lot of things can go wrong out there. Second question: was there anything you were required to keep with you at all times, like the GPS? Yeah, that's the yellow brick, so we have to keep that on us always. If we leave our camp, like sure you can, if you're in your shelter or something, you can like set it wherever, but if you leave and go somewhere, it's the only smart thing to do is to have that on you, because let's say Cubby's arrow situation would have been worse. He had that red button you could push. A red button's like instant tap out, man. And this information is also out there. I saw there's an interview with either Ryan Pender, one of the executive producers, or Dave Holder, the lead survival consultant, and they just said something about this. But yeah, it's the red button. You push that, they're gonna come as fast as they can, and if you hit that at any point in time, you're done. So that red button does exist. They want to make sure that they drive it home that if you push that thing, you're not pushing it for like a random reason. So if you push it, your time is done. It's considered a tap out without even saying I'm officially tapping out. You have tapped out. But yeah, that infamous red button. And we have to keep that on us always, like I said. How did I sleep? Did exhaustion knock you out, or did you mostly sleep with one eye open? When you're out there like building things without a lot of fuel put into your body, you get pretty exhausted. So I slept. I mean, I'm only going to speak to the first several days that I've been shown. I think I'm on like day 6 or 7 or something in the show of what's aired so far. So since I'm at day 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever the hell I'm at, Up to this point, the first couple nights were maybe a little iffy. I mean, you saw that bear encounter that was legit. It scared the crap out of me, but for the most part, it was pretty silent. And every time I went to bed, I was tired because, I mean, you've only seen me for like 20 minutes or something total in the show, but I spent a considerable amount of time like building that shelter and pimping that thing out. So when I laid down, I was out. But the Arctic is weird. It's so quiet. Like, if you were to just stand there, most of the time there's no wind. It's so silent that it's like your ears ring. You can hear your ears ring. It's like one of those isolation tanks. It's crazy. And in that amount of silence, not to mention the buffer of like the moss and the pine boughs and everything else inside the shelter, it is so silent. So if you hear anything at all, it jars you awake. I slept really quite good. I mean, I don't think I didn't sleep a solid 8 hours ever, but I don't even do that at home. So usually I end up waking up because I'm thinking about something or because I got to go to the bathroom or whatever else. And I can honestly say that I wish I had Isaiah's gas can. That's a freaking nice deal. For peeing, you can't even imagine how much of a pain in the butt it is. Especially when I know I got Griswolds outside my shelter all the time, and just getting out to pee, it's a lot. It feels better to just stay in there and pee, but yeah, you gotta do it. I mean, I thought about peeing in my shelter, but that could get really, really, really nasty. And the last question of Forever Overthinking, most importantly, what is your favorite color? That's definitely interesting. At this point, it's probably like somewhere on the spectrum between like yellow and orange would be my favorite color, like the color of a fire almost, I guess. But I don't know. Interesting that that's your most important question. But I appreciate it. Difficult lawfulness, 7. Was it within the season's regulations to hunt grizzly bear with a bow? No, we couldn't hunt grizzlies. We could hunt black bears, but there weren't very many. With all the grizzlies, I mean, grizzly bears and black bears like don't really get along. Grizzly bears will kill and chase off black bears, and there was few and far between. I discovered even in my research before going out there. The Crafty Granny says, "Thanks for doing these, Dub. Looks like there were a few fishing reg changes this year, including baited line sets. I would say regulations are way more generous than in previous seasons. Since fishing is your thing, my questions are around that. You mentioned that you were bringing barbed hooks in your prep video. Did you have to file the barbs off? Did I bring any treble hooks? If not, did you regret it?" So we did. It was all barbless this season. So I had to pinch all my barbs down when I got there. Interestingly, the fish hooks I showed in my 10-item video, like when we filmed that, there was still another day or two before we actually launched. So the fishing hooks I showed in my 10-item video are not actually the exact hooks I brought. I brought a lot more bigger hooks, a lot of 7/0 and a lot of 4/0, but you'll see them. But I realized after I got home that the hooks I had left after I left there, I freaking left in the Arctic. I had them sitting in a spot. But it sucks, those fish hooks are all gone. Did I use any treble hooks? I did not. It was all heavy wire, large like 7/0, 6/0, 4/0. A couple small ones, a couple small like octopus hooks, but mostly they were all single hooks. I mean, I can't really justify bringing a treble hook if it counts as 3 hooks, because what if you catch that one treble hook on a damn log out there and it's gone? Your hooks would go really fast. But if you use a wide gap, large hook, they hook just as good as a treble. Plus they're easier to get out. And there's a lot of other uses for hooks aside from fishing. And I could not justify a treble hook for this trip. Why did you make a short gill net? I assume it was because the water was shallow. Were you able to have more than one net deployed at a time? No, it was one net. allowed, and I misunderstood the regulations about net size. I made that net. It was not very deep. It could have been longer. I knew that the regulations were like 12 feet long or something, and I misunderstood the regulations about the depth of the net that we could make. So my net was as big as I thought I could make it. Turns out it was not. I could have went bigger, but whatever. That was an oversight on my part that may or may not come back to bite me in the behind. We'll see. Was I able to deploy my burbot trap? So my burbot trapping sets are mainly for ice fishing, and I can't answer that because we're not to the ice fishing stage yet, if I make it that far. So you can bet your bottom dollar if I get that far along, I'm going to be deploying all sorts of stuff under the ice, but I can't say. Bushcrafter. Per cutting toward yourself, I really don't see too much poor form on the show. It seems safety is the most people's concern. When I've been weak and tired, I found it changes my form, and that's when I experiment with doing things different, and that leads to injuries. It's true. I was very, very, very careful. And when Peter cut his hand in the last episode, I was holding my hand over my mouth, watching the way he was cutting that, because I was like, oh God, you're done, dude. That's going to cut you. And within 2 seconds of me saying that to myself, I was already like this, and boom, the cut came, and I'm like, oh, bro. So yeah, when your mind's elsewhere and you're tired, exhausted, potentially dehydrated, you're going to screw up. Nelsocracy asks, what changes did you make to your shelter? It looked bigger and stronger, but didn't show any details. I added a bunch of pine boughs to it. So I just pulled the tarp off. It wasn't really that big of a deal. I mean, like, I pulled the tarp off, added tons and tons of spruce boughs to it, and some other stuff, filled in the gaps, put the tarp back over it, and just added some insulation, and added a few more support structures along the sides. As of right now, where we're at in the show, that's what I did. That's about it, but there might be some even bigger expansion plans coming. But up to this point in time, I just insulated it and wanted to be ready for if the temperature suddenly tanked, which is very plausible. I wanted to be insulated and sort of ready for that. I'm sure you'll see a little bit more coverage of my shelter and how it went, and Peter did a lot of Setlines. Did you know that was an option? And if so, why didn't you do it? I imagine fear of losing hooks. That is 100% it. There's one thing I know for sure is you throw out some bait on a hook and you're off working on your shelter or doing something else, you're going to come back to your hook probably gone. I mean, of course, we all use trapping wire as wire leaders, but still the size of these fish and the risk of losing a hook and the risk of losing a bunch of fishing line and everything else was way too much. When I knew as soon as I put the hammer to the anvil and actually started trying to fish, I knew assumed I would get them, so I didn't want to risk anything. And so Setlines were not an option until I'm sitting there watching them, and a hook, line, everything gone, not to mention like potentially hurting the fish and stringing a bunch of heavy monofilament in the pristine waters of the Arctic. Just everything about it seemed like a terrible idea for me to not be present when it happened. So I might do that. We shall see. In the early seasons, people ate a lot of bugs. Is that against the rules now? Are there not enough in the environment, or do they just not show it? There weren't really a lot of bugs. I don't think I ate any bugs out there. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I mean, if I saw ants or something, you bet your butt I would eat them. Ants actually taste pretty good, but I didn't I did not see any bugs that were worth wasting my time on. I just imagine myself getting like 1 calorie or something from a small bug, when the risk of a parasite is there. Like you hear people talk about, and you see people eat grasshoppers and stuff. A few years ago, I was struggling in a similar situation, and I was going to start eating these raw grasshoppers. So what you want to do is you pull the head off, and a lot of times the guts will come right out with them, and then from there you can just eat them. So I pulled the head off this grasshopper, and out came a freaking tapeworm, like a tapeworm that filled the entire body of this grasshopper. So that was enough for me to say okay, because that would have been game over. You get a parasite like that out there from risking eating like a bug that's worth a couple calories. I mean, cooking the grasshoppers actually they're pretty good cooked, but just randomly running around trying to eat bugs seems like not exactly the best use of calories, unless there's like large supply. Like I hit a termite mound or something and it's full of larvae or whatever, that would be a different story. I would focus on that, because throughout the whole mound there's a lot of calories in that. But bugs were not my thing out there. I wouldn't be surprised if some people did eat bugs though out there. Inner degree 6751. Did you keep the wet duds on after retrieving the arrow? Hope they show more of your camp. Was that bear video actually footage that has it been added for drama? Those I completely disrobed on camera. Thank God they edited that out. Now at the time when I jumped into the water, I had normal underwear on, the boxers, and I had long johns on, and I had my pants. So I took basically before I put my clothes back on, I took those underwear off. You can see them laying on the side of the river hanging over a log. Yeah, I definitely didn't put my clothes back on over top of those wet underwear. And then the bear video, the first few days I had my game cameras out in highly traveled game trails right there. There was obvious trails going through my area. I saw somebody complaining about why is this guy camping on a major game trail and I'm getting picked right here. Why is this guy staying on a major game trail and complaining about animal traffic? Well, I mean, there was a horsetail swamp that went a half mile back. There was extremely thick stuff on all sides of that, and then right behind my shelter it was that big hump, and then it was the river. So there's no place out there to be that doesn't have a game trail on it. And if there's not a game trail there, that means it's too thick to go through. So that's why that spot was chosen. But it's also was perfect wind block, and I had that hill behind me I could dig into to really make my shelter pimped out and use all that extra dirt to add on to it. And you see sort of what I'm doing in I think it's the first episode, where I'm adding dirt that I dug up to the sides and other places. So there's more to the shelter that you've not seen, but you will soon. How did I get off on that tangent? Hi Deb, my daughter and I are so excited that we've finally seen you on some episodes. Apologies for not having an episode specific question, but related to her last question, what was your preferred material for wiping in the Arctic? We can't imagine there are too many options, especially once winter rolls around. She's a wet wipes type of kid, and I also wonder if there's anything that could mimic that out in the wild to any degree. Emily, there's something that can easily replicate that in the wild, and I'm sure there's some right by me. So if you were to take, hold for a moment, I gotta go right here. Here you go. If you take this moss, I mean this is a highly compacted piece of moss, So this, I wouldn't recommend using this one because there's dirt on the back of it. But you can get a big handful of moss, dip that in the river like that, and that's basically a baby wipe. So there's definitely alternatives. Or this, like this is a bracken fern. Pick that up like that, fold it like that, and that is toilet paper. And there's a lot of stuff like that moss right here. Look at that stuff. You pull that off the tree, dip it in the water, boom. You might as well have a piece of quilted northern. And as the season goes on, in the winter time, I mean, snow works really good. Just make a snowball, wipe, another snowball, wipe, another snowball, wipe till you're seeing no residue. So that answer is for Emily. Appreciate you watching. Israb Gel asks, my question is regarding the contestant that left in the latest episode, episode 3. After talking about his family, he caught a ridiculous number of fish and tapped out. There's no way he ate all those fish in a few hours. What happens to all the fish? So what they usually do in a situation like that is they'll take it back to the production office and cook it. There's chefs sort of on site that cook food for the producers and everybody else that's involved in that sort of that end of the show. So they'll cook it all there, and they'll eat it production, or B, they'll give it to the tribe, which I don't know what they did, but they absolutely do not let fish, just any animal like that, it won't get wasted. So Jordan, if you haven't seen season 6, you should probably stop listening to what I'm saying for a minute. But so Jordan in season 6, when he left, he had a bunch of fish and moose, and they brought it all back to production, and they cooked it and ate it all up. The Mechatron. As part of your prep, did you try to learn caloric values for things like pike versus duck versus squirrel, cranberries, etc.? Can't say I spent a lot of time researching like caloric values of things, but I did know that squirrels don't have a lot in them, and fish, if you cook the entire thing, there's a lot of fat involved in that. And there's also salt. One of the rare places to get salt is in the eyeballs of things. So the big eyeballs on the pike are pretty handy. But no, I knew that whatever I ended up targeting and busting my butt to try to get as much of that as I could, I was just going to bang it out. So I didn't spend a lot of time squirrels versus pike versus whatever else. I mean, I knew that I was going to make the most of whatever I was given in my spot and just eat the hell out of it. But yeah, so I didn't do a lot of planning of what has the most calories and whatever else. I just knew that fish in general has a lot of calories, and big games obviously have got a lot of calories throughout that too. So hundreds of different survival strategies that went through my head before I got out there, and I just went with, I knew when I got out there, I was just going to go with the one that made the most sense to me. If there's not a ton of berries, if there's not a ton of whatever, I'm just going to focus on whatever I can get and just beat the heck out of it. And that's maybe what I did. But no, I didn't do a lot of calorie counting or anything like that. Jana Mears asked, were those merino wool undies? Yes, they were. Everything I had almost was merino wool. All my socks were wool, all my long underwear, hat, I mean everything. Everything I could make wool, I did. And the only thing that wasn't was my winter coat and my rain jacket and sleeping bag. Wool is one of the few fabrics that will keep you warm even if you're a little wet. So merino wool, underwear, check. Mr. Dub, Old Woman Gardener, says, I think about what would go on in my mind out there all by myself, and I suspect it would bring on a fair amount of anxiety for me. Maybe this is why people end up tapping when they're going to deep places in their minds. We've already seen so many people do it. The mental health aspect of the contest seems to be the biggest surprise to everyone. And contestants seem forever changed by their time out there alone, even if it was for a short time. My question for you is, was your mind prone to going off to deep places? And if so, how did you respond to it? What did it take to keep going? That's a good question. I don't think I can really touch that right now because we're only on like episode 3. In the days that we're showing here, up to day 7 or 8 or whatever I'm at, yeah, my mind was doing some weird stuff, but it was mostly revolved around me feeling like ADD-ish in the way that I had so many things I knew I needed to do that I just couldn't quite focus on one particular thing. So that's why I said, okay, dude, boom, focus on this shelter. The fish are right there. They're not going anywhere. Get this shelter done. Make it pretty much done, and then go balls to the wall on food. And that is where we're at up to this point. So there wasn't a lot of time for my mind to go too crazy thinking about things that are outside of the show, because there was no time to waste. But I see why people's mind kind of goes there. It's very, very, very common. Every year we see it. Jesus, there's a big fish hitting up there. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate all these great questions. It's going to be a while before I do another one of these. I might wait till like the end, but I'll keep pumping out videos. I'm going to start focusing more on just like out doing like this trout over here. Kind of want to catch that thing on a damn gorge hook right now. But I'll see you guys soon. I'll see you guys on the History Channel this Thursday.